The year is 1996, and the company known as Purdue Pharma creates a state-of-the-art pain-killing pill. They send dozens of sales representatives into the mountains of West Virginia and the hills of Appalachia with one single goal in mind: to procure clients for their brand new opioid, OxyContin. What would follow would be decades of deceit, lies, payouts, lawsuits, addiction, and a crisis that would see the entire Appalachian region infected with an addiction rate the world had never seen before. This curse would last through generations and across multiple different states. But it did not start there, and Purdue Pharma was just the last in a very long line of people and companies that sought to take advantage of the region that I call home. This is the death of Appalachia, the story of how my home region was taken advantage of by Big Pharma for decades, generations even, and how the ramifications of these decisions still exist today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I hope this video doesn't get me on another watch list. And without further ado, let's begin this rabbit hole, and let's dive deep into Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family, and any other bastard pharma organization that seeks to scar this land. A major theme in today's video is the corruption of healthcare and the pharmaceutical industry, and how, because of that corruption, individuals can be taken advantage of by shady healthcare providers who just want to make money from the suffering of the innocents. I believe healthcare is extremely important to have a successful, fulfilling, and happy life, and I think finding a doctor that you can actually trust is of the utmost importance, as you'll see in this video today. That is why I am proud to announce that today's video is sponsored by ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, and you can choose the right one that fits your needs based on real, verified patient reviews. From primary care to dentistry to skin care to eye care, and nearly everything in between, you can use ZocDoc with a few easy clicks to find the person you need. ZocDoc makes it easy to book in-network appointments with a catalog of over 100,000 healthcare providers. This means you're not stuck picking between just a few. You have a large array. And using ZocDoc, you can filter your search for doctors by geographical region, your needs, your insurance, specialty, your locations, and also very importantly, you can check those verified patient reviews to see which doctors align with what you're needing. As you watch this video today, you'll see why those verified patient reviews are extremely important. When you find the doctor that you need, their actual appointment times and openings are there. And instantly book using ZocDoc, because all it takes is just a few clicks. Plus, using ZocDoc, you can usually get an appointment within 24 to 72 hours of booking. And in certain situations, you can even book same-day appointments. There's no need to call an office, wait in line, or walk into some random place you've never been before. It can all be done on ZocDoc. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and find the physician you trust by going to the description below and go to ZocDoc.com/spoogly to find and to instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thank you to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it, shall we? Before the days of widespread opioid addiction, the Appalachian region was a vastly different place in the form of medical care. Predating drugs, predating Purdue Pharma, before the real corruption took root, our story today begins in 1848. A man named Calvin Cowles opened a storefront in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, with a goal of selling what's called crude botanicals. Now, crude botanicals are raw and unprocessed medicinal plants like roots and mushrooms, ginger root, ginseng, peppermint, belladonna, barks such as cinnamon. Essentially, these are the things that grow naturally in the Appalachian region, and they have these health benefits that come from the earth. Rural communities in the Blue Ridge region would work throughout the summer to procure these botanicals, and they would bring them down to Cowell's to trade and barter for other things. He would exchange these roots and these herbs and these medicinal plants for things that he procured from northern merchants, like furs and silks, and thus the exchange and bartering process would repeat. After the trades were made, Cowell's would then ship these raw botanicals to medical communities and up-and-coming pharmaceutical agencies. The Shaker Company in New York and Tilden & Co. and other various pioneers in drug manufacturing for the time. It's important to note that in the late 1800s, the pharmaceutical industry was in its infancy. This was a time when people thought bloodletting and breathing in fresh air was the leading treatment for all illness. Sepsis and germ theory weren't even understood fully. Watch Death by Lightning on Netflix if you want to see how President Garfield died from septic infection and not from being shot. But during these late 1800s, the push to use these indigenous American plants was in full swing. It was all the rage. Extracts, teas, salves, balms, slurries, concoctions, and anything in between were being created out of these natural botanicals, and they were being used directly to treat illness and pain that individuals were experiencing. People like Cowell were the ones that were supplying this raw material to the companies to make those remedies happen. The use of these plants and Cowell's small dynasty was growing astronomically in the hills of Appalachia, when a company known as the Wallace Brothers began to take the enterprise to an unforeseen height. In the 1880s, the Wallace Brothers became the biggest crude botanical supplier in the USA by far, if not the whole world. They had over 40,000 stock investors in western North Carolina alone, and they harvested over 200 species of plants. Those species supplied over 400 stores in 30 different counties in Appalachia with the botanicals. This level of widespread availability made the raw botanical industry boom. These natural remedies were effective in some cases. They were easy to sell to the masses, since indeed they were all natural, and any single person that lived in Appalachia could harvest them, because they just grew everywhere. A botanist from Harvard University visited the area back in 1879, and he noted how large the enterprise was. He reported specifically that, quote, "We would meet women on horseback with a bundle of the more bulky herbs," end quote. After the major success of the Wallace Brother enterprise and their raw botanical trade, other companies began to capitalize on it as well, and businesses would pop up in Kentucky and Virginia and West Virginia, and they scoured the Appalachian Mountains to harvest wagon loads of roots and herbs. An estimated 75% of the world's supply of Native American medicinal plants came from the Appalachian region during this time. And it seems like the region itself was destined to heal the people that lived within. It was like the forest was growing remedies. The Appalachian Range is one of the most biodiverse forest regions in the entire world. It's chock full of microhabitats and ecological havens. It's a place of extreme biodiversity on a macro and micro scale, and to this day it still has an abundance of many of the things that I'm discussing here in this video. However, the main reason that the harvesting and the selling and use of these raw botanicals, these herbs and roots, were so widespread was something called commons culture. At the time, and still somewhat to this day, just by a lesser degree, abandoned land, or land that would be considered for the community, was accessible to the common people to harvest and to scavenge on. This means almost everyone and anyone in the community had access to mountainsides and rivers and lakes and fields and grounds for foraging. And when times were hard, post-Civil War era, and the lack of job opportunity in the places here, people could just jump in and help each other out by foraging more raw botanicals and selling them. It's essentially that brotherly and sisterly love that the Appalachian region is known for. Quote, "Back then, there weren't any no trespassing signs, no barbed wire fences. The mountains were for everyone to benefit from and to succeed from. But this style of medicinal botany and taking these things from the earth to heal the sick, this would not last forever. And after World War II ended, the medical industry shifted away from it completely in favor of brand new synthetic drugs like oxycodone, Vicodin, and things of that nature. And before we knew it, The rise in these synthetic drugs across the Appalachian Mountains would eventually wipe the botanical industry off the map. For decades before that, though, the medical botany was accepted. It was useful. Anybody could participate and anybody could heal themselves using it. Until the pharmaceutical companies began to grow and they saw it as primitive. And as such, a culture shift began. As coal mining became the main economy in the area and in the country, mining injuries came to the forefront at the dawn of the 1900s, and the need for widespread pain relief for the symptoms of these injuries needed to be created. Conditions in the Appalachian coal mines were horrible, to say the least, and severe nerve damage was a very common plight among the workers. Trembling limbs, fidgeting bodies, shaking, fatigue, paralysis. These are all symptoms of what would go on to be named miner syndrome. As I said earlier, coal was booming in the economy. And if you weren't mining for the company, there isn't much in this town, as the old song says. In the 1920s and 1930s, coal mining injuries were so common that doctors needed a way to manage this pain and the fear that the miners had from getting injured. So concoctions of morphine and opium were dissolved into alcohol and were handed out like candy. This would give the miners a feeling of slight euphoria, along with relieving their pain temporarily. And for a time, these concoctions were working, until hydrocodone and oxycodone became available and were added to that same mix as a way to treat these miners' ailments. But don't think of these doctors helping the coal miners as a good thing. These workers were not given a fix, so to say, with the goal of it being permanent. It was more of a quick band-aid and a slap on the shoulder that says, get back out there and mine. It was a slapdash try, to say the least, of fixing things. So now we've reached a point in history where the entire workforce is being run ragged. Men are crushing their legs, their spines have stopped working, they're crawling on all fours, they can't bend their knees, and taking medication and morphine concoctions was the only way to ease the pain. This created a cycle of drug abuse at work, with people needing these concoctions in order to succeed and to move. And that cycle would soon see itself take root inside the home as well. As the mid-1900s washed into Appalachia, oxycodone, hydrocodone, diazepam, and Xanax began to flush into the mountains like a relentless weed. At first, they were being used to treat the coal miners' injuries, until one company named Purdue Pharma enters the scene. Now, the drugs I just listed were being abused by several people and several shady doctors before Purdue Pharma came onto the scene itself. But nothing in this world compares to the addiction level and the ease of access that the drug Purdue Pharma would create has. You see, this company conducted the controlled release of a state-of-the-art pill called OxyContin. This controlled release began in the 1990s, but the company itself, Purdue Pharma, was founded way back in 1882 under the name Purdue Frederick Company. After the year 1952, the business was fully owned by the Sackler family and continued to be operated and run by his descendants until modern day. They seem to have struck gold in the late 1990s when they lucked into their new pill, OxyContin. OxyContin is comprised of oxycodone, hydrochloride, and other ingredients as a synthetic way to relieve pain over a long period of time. The goal is for the person to take a pill, and over the next 12 hours, they'll experience relief in any pain that they have. The only problem is, this simply wasn't true. You see, the Sackler family needed to find a way to market their new miracle painkiller to these pharmaceutical companies and these doctors in order for them to write prescriptions for it. So they thought the best way to do this, and the best way to get doctors and physicians on board, was bribing them with trips and vacations and seminars that were in tropical destinations and things like that. These were, of course, conducted under the guise of business expense-paid trips, but in reality, they were vacations. Because of this, their sales soared to unforeseen heights, along with the deaths of those who would overdose from OxyContin. After Purdue Pharma convinced doctors and physicians to begin to send out its OxyContin pills to the public, the company would then sign deals with other pharmaceutical places, the likes of which include Johnson & Johnson and other large companies, to sell and distribute their drug on an even wider scale inside of Appalachia, and thus began an epidemic. The pharmaceutical companies themselves targeted Appalachia for a multitude of reasons. Chronic pain from working inside of horrible mining conditions left a population of the working force that needed and desired something to ease their physical health. Plus, the lack of widespread healthcare systems means that if there's a doctor nearby and they were selling it, you essentially had to take whatever they were prescribing. Many of the towns here, you don't have a second opinion. You have the local town doctor, and what he says goes. And on top of all this, the Harrison's Narcotics Tax Act essentially screwed over places like Appalachia. The act was designed by Congress as a way to single out people using drugs in urban populations. It did this by requiring anyone who sold or distributed narcotics, whether it was importers or wholesalers or doctors, to register with the government and to pay the government a tax each time they made a sale on those drugs and narcotics. So essentially, the government allowed the drugs to get sold as long as they made $1 from it. This means that when a place with high demand for pain management like Appalachia is involved, the government salivates at how much money they can make from the taxes on the drugs they provide. It really is a sick and twisted thing. You see, the local doctors already got paid vacations and incentives for selling OxyContin by Purdue Pharma, and by the year 2000, physicians inside of Appalachia were prescribing OxyContin at a 6 times the national rate. While the populace fell deeper and deeper into abuse and addiction, Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family got richer, and the doctors weren't doing anything to stop the cycle. By 2001, 50 to 90% of newly admitted patients in treatment programs across West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Virginia itself were identifying OxyContin as the reason they were addicted. They were calling it hillbilly heroin, and it was by far the most abused drug in the entire region. But Purdue Pharma didn't stop there. They didn't stop when they could take advantage of a population that was in pain and suffering for generations. They began to target other small towns without much economic opportunity all across the East Coast, pumping their OxyContin drug into the hospitals there with reckless abandon, all while grossing billions and billions of dollars. Between 1995 and 2001, OxyContin brought in $2.8 billion in revenue for Purdue Pharma. By 2016, it was $31 billion. By 2017, it was $35 billion. And all of the company's profits go directly to the Sackler family trusts and entities. The Sackler family were directly profiting, and still are to this day, from the sufferings of millions of people. It's been said before, I'm not the first person to say it, but it never needs to stop being said. These individuals are evil. Once this virus of the OxyContin drug clawed its way into the hills and to the hollers of Appalachia, stories of this miracle pain pill spread around, and before people knew how deadly it was, word of mouth were selling the drug as well. Friend would tell friend about it, how it's this amazing thing that takes all the pain away. You don't even have to swallow it, you can just crush it up and put it in your drink, and you'll feel amazing all day. After all, the doctor said it wasn't addictive, and that it was slow release and slow acting, so you wouldn't develop an abusive cycle with it. And plus, it was easy to get a prescription. You just had to walk into any doctor in your region and say that you were in pain. And since the doctors got paid and vacations and things like that for prescribing it, they would simply write a slip for it and let you walk out. On the same note, fake clinics began to pop up all over Appalachia to propagate the sale of OxyContin as well. Posing as normal pain centers, they were often cash only and would hand out pills like candy to anyone who came in. Disgustingly, these fake centers were often run by the real doctors as a way to front more money from the trade of Purdue Pharma. An entire generation of people worked themselves to the bone, to the point of decay, in an industry like the coal industry that was supposed to be the future. and they stretched the limits of their body to the grave and were willing to reach for anything that would make this pain stop. So of course they would trust these licensed doctors with their advice and with their prescriptions. So they took what the doctors gave them, they swallowed the OxyContin, they crushed it up and drank it with their morning coffee. The doctors took the money Purdue Pharma gave them, and Purdue Pharma took the money and the life from everyone involved. And thus, the cycle repeats for decades. Purdue Pharma saw an opportunity to take advantage of an area in this country that had been plagued with pain and addiction already. Morphine and oxycodone from the mines, and slurries of alcohol and other painkillers when they got home. They saw this, and they saw the use of it being widespread in Appalachia, due again to the horrible economic and work conditions that the people in this area had to work with. Purdue Pharma saw that, and they thought, we can take advantage of this. We can use this. They saw a region ripe for creating a drug empire, and they saw a people that had no other choice but to listen to what the doctor said. You go to any small Appalachian town, you might have one doctor. You're not getting a second opinion. You're not getting a bunch of reviews. You have the local doctor who's been doing it for 60 years, and that's it. Little did they know that the doctors were not serving the public good, and they were actively harming it. To this day, thousands suffer from OxyContin and opioid addiction. 50% of the excess mortality that Appalachia has is attributed to deaths of despair, drug overdose, suicide, and alcoholic cirrhosis. Anyone that grew up here knows what this is. They know the toll that Purdue Pharma took on the land and the people that live here. It's torn families apart, it's ripped the economy directly from the ground, and it's uprooted any reason for economy to come here and for industry to come here. There is no industry, there's very little opportunity, and there's no really affordable healthcare. This creates an environment of people that believe they can't even make it out of the holler they were born in. So what more could they do than listen to the doctor that they know and trust? The Sackler family and the doctors who propped up OxyContin did not start the addiction crisis in Appalachia. Like I said beforehand, it was the slurries of morphine and oxycodone and alcohol. This is what was being used, and yes, it was addictive, but no, it was not as addictive as OxyContin, and it was not as easily accessible, and it was not as detrimental. Purdue Pharma used this as a way to further their financial empire as they sowed seeds of destruction in this region. It's a scar on this beautiful region, this ancient place. There's just a shadow in the shape of a pill bottle over it all. And one day, I hope that we all can surmount it and something can come in and help. Many lawsuits against the Purdue Pharma company have been filed for causing the opioid crisis. But in typical fashion, the company found ways to protect and to shield themselves from civil liability using loopholes and lies. But with a slight glimmer of hope, I am proud to say that as of 2021, the Purdue Pharma company is in the final stages of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and the courts are pushing for their net worth of around $7 billion to be dissolved into a new public health benefit company with a mission to produce medication and programs to fight opioid abuse in Appalachia. We can only hope that that $7 billion finds its way to actually help the public and not into the pockets of a politician. And allegedly, we should be hearing the final results of this bankruptcy sometime in November of this year. I can only hope that if and when the company goes down, that the Sacklers somehow face justice for what they did, and that the ramifications of their actions do not go away quietly. The story of this opioid epidemic and this crisis really sickens me, and I'm sure it sickens you as well. It's a sad story, and it's been going on for generations, and it's caused entire families to be rifted apart. And somehow the Sacklers are getting away scot-free, essentially, by these legal loopholes. But maybe in whatever's after this life, they'll be judged accordingly. Thank you for watching this video all the way until the end. I know this was a deep and disconcerting and uncomfortable video for many of you to watch, and it's a very disturbing thing to say the least. It obviously hits very close to home for me because I was born, raised, and live in far eastern Kentucky. And the fact that this Sackler family in Purdue Pharma, they're not getting publicly shamed enough for my liking. So I decided to make this video in hopes that more eyes would see the issue at hand. It just really sucks that companies that are in the public eye like this, that are supposed to be helping and preserving the people, they take advantage of them, and they lie to them, and use deceitful marketing tactics. It's just an awful situation that genuinely I hope one day I can help with, or somebody can help with, that gets this problem fixed. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like on it. That way it gets out to more people and more individuals can see what's going on. And while you're down there, check out the description below. I'm going to link a bunch of stuff that you can visit and read up on, and maybe even donate to help fund the opioid crisis and the things that might be able to fix it or help it. I think it's just important that as many people as possible become knowledgeable about what is occurring. So there's going to be links in the description that will help you learn about it even more beyond what was in this video. If you like the video, I do upload content like this all the time, so maybe you can stick around if you want to see more. If you don't, that's fine with me. Until then, whatever happens, hope you had a great day. Remember to tell somebody that you love them, because life's too short not to. And remember to be kind to everybody, okay? That's the lost art in modern society. Kindness. Thank you for everything, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.